Our next speaker I'm super excited about. She is the head of our Fjord studio. We jokingly say at Accenture that's where all the cool kids live because they're all, hip and they're doing design thinking and creativity. Tanarra has been with Fjord for about 20 years. She's had loads of experience in agencies, marketing agencies, digital services agencies as well. And she is going to take us through something that she is calling, ready? Positive disruption. So here you go, Tanarra, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so yes, people like to say that Fjord is where the cool kids live. I brought some of my cool kids with me, actually. There's a bunch of folks that are going to see floating around the room because I'm only going to talk for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to ask you guys to talk to each other. And I'm going to ask you to do something we've been asking you to think about all day long, which is act. I'm going to ask you guys to make a commitment today to do something different tomorrow that is going to move this conversation from where it is right now to where it needs to be. I have a friend who may or may not be in the room right now who likes to say, even a step forward into a ditch is a step forward. And sometimes we fail before we succeed. But I would like to actually just have a little bit of fun for a minute, if you guys will allow me, because it's the afternoon, and I think we need a little bit of fun in the room. So I'm going to tell you a story about my own adventure in sort of change and what I really think my journey for change is, and I'm going to do it through the lens of Black Panther. I love to dream about things. I am a dreamer. That's why I am a designer. It's why I do what I do. And ultimately, what I do and the folks that I work with and have worked with for about 20 years do is we design change. We help design spaces where behavior can be different, products can be used in new ways, and hopefully are serving the humans that touch them a little bit better every time. The thing that I learned about change from Wakanda and the folks who put Black Panther together and the movie itself in particular. I love the comic book as well, but the movie itself in particular is that it did something for me that nothing else has been able to do. Ow. Everybody okay? Somebody fall down? Somebody have a mic on in the bathroom? Just real quick. Okay. Black Panther was unapologetically black. Let that sink in for a minute. Unapologetically black. Ladies, I'm going to be hard on us for a second. We apologize too much. I listened to a bunch of really strong women today stand on the stage and say, "Men, I'm sorry," and then tell the truth. What are you sorry for? Truth is hard. Change is hard. But we have to stop apologizing for telling the truth. And Black Panther hurt a lot of people's feelings because it was a cast of predominantly black people, and that was something that's very unusual for us to see on screen. And so a lot of people said, whoa, whoa, we're the white people. Go watch another movie, because I'm not going to apologize. At all. Because I finally have a princess who looks like me. I thought the movie in and of itself was incredible. It was flawed. Lots of things about the plot you can talk about and you can pick apart. But ultimately, the portrait of Wakanda as a space and the people within it painted a possible future for me where I didn't feel exceptional, I felt normal, expected for the first time. And one of the things that occurs to me when we go through conversations like this is that we're constantly holding those of us who are firsts up as these pillars. And firsts are unattainable for so many people. They're never going to be the first. They may not feel exceptional, but exceptional people, full confession, I cried at Wonder Woman. I cried watching her run across that battlefield and thinking, finally, There's a woman with a sword in her hand running, and she's leading men, and it is amazing. But she is exceptional. She is an Amazon. She is a god. I don't want gods for my daughter. I have a 4-year-old. I want women in normal spaces doing the things that we all do every day, walking into rooms as proud professionals. And Shuri didn't feel like she was exceptional to me. She felt expected. She belonged there. She was intelligent, powerful, fierce, terrified, all of those things that we are so many times as women. She was all of those things. And she looked like me, and suddenly I felt normal. Change has to start to feel like normalcy, not like the exception. All of the things that we can do to create a dialogue where people feel welcome, men and women, people of all spaces feel normal, is that we have to make it a normal thing. If we make it an exception every single time, it is always going to feel unattainable. We have to start to paint a picture where this is the everyday, not where it's an unachievable set of facts that we have to reach for and find in little tiny pockets. So when I think about equality as a disruptive force, it's thinking about it as something I can paint a picture of that starts to feel normal, that starts to remove the conversations about the lack, the things that are missing, and show all the people around me what's possible and what's normal. So a little bit about me. I'm a woman. I'm a black woman. I'm in my 40s. That could describe any number of people in this room, any number of people out there. I've recently embraced the term single mom. My daughter's father and I are separated. But that term in particular, for me, because of my experiences in the world and the way that I've seen black single mothers treated in this country, has a lot of stigma. I'm going to destigmatize that term right now, because my daughter's father is also a single father. So when she's with him, he is managing the same crap I deal with every day when I have her, and it's just the two of us. He's got to cook dinner. He's got to do laundry. He's got to clean the house. He's got to do all the same things I have to do. So I embrace the term single mom because I am a single mother. It doesn't diminish him, it doesn't diminish her, it doesn't diminish me. I am also privileged. So thank you to the previous panel for bringing up the term privileged. I went to private school. I grew up lower middle class in Chicago, but I grew up in an urban city center where I had exposure to all different races, all different people, and my mother made it an absolute point to let me know she was not going to let me off the hook for getting an education. I am privileged. Not in every sense, but in some serious ways. I now have a responsibility, thank you, Justin, to live that privilege in the best possible way and to start painting pictures and making people like me normal for other people around me so they don't feel like there's this unattainable thing out there that they have to strive to be. It doesn't have to be that way. I'm also a feminist, because feminism is the radical notion that women are human beings or people. It's a very simple phrase to me, but it's my norm. It's the way I grew up. But that might not be everybody's belief. Somebody mentioned earlier that we are sort of the sum of our experiences. Women all have been exposed to the same things. We may not all have the same advantages of having seen the world in different ways. So if you've never had a boss who was a woman, or you've never worked with women who are your peers, you may never have had that experience. It may not be your normal. My college roommate grew up in a town of about 600 people. I was the first black person she'd ever had a conversation with. I was certainly not Jill's normal. But Jill and I got to be really good friends. I didn't love when she woke me up with Danzig at 7 o'clock in the morning. For those of you who know what Danzig is, trust me, not the thing you want to wake up to. But I have a very different belief set than a lot of people because I am a construction of my experiences. So what do you believe? What are the beliefs that you come with that maybe keep you from understanding someone else's normal and then finding an intersection where you can figure out how to construct our future together? I was raised to believe that black is beautiful by a white mother. A lot of intersectionality there. I was raised by a father who spent most of his career in law enforcement to believe that nobody needs guns. I was raised to believe that book smart is absolutely critical, but without common sense, please stay home. Don't come to the party. No one wants you there. And over time, as I wound my way through my career, I came to believe that serving others, I was a chef for a while, that serving others, cooking for other people, bringing together flavors from different spaces made everything better. That combination of things made everything better, and that's a lot of the conversation we're having around equality, right? We are all better when we're together because we have that blend of passions and experiences and perspectives. And that's how my life has been constructed. But if I judge other people for not being exactly where I am, because I had the duh moment of, yeah, equality, of course, why wouldn't that be the thing? I am missing part of the conversation, and I'm not creating a space where somebody else can examine what they believe. So I'm going to ask you guys, how do you challenge your own beliefs? How do you help other people challenge theirs? And if you did those two things, how would it change your behavior every day? Would it change how you scanned the room when you came in? Would it change whether or not you stopped and said, did you guys hear what she just said? Hang on, just want to make sure. Would it give you the courage to pull somebody aside and say, hey, I didn't even realize I cut you off, or I did that, or I behaved that way? Right after the most recent presidential election, it was an interesting day in the studio. And there were a lot of assumptions because we are generally made up of a fairly liberal group of folks who spend our time creating empathy, and most of us, you know, are tattooed and we grow crazy things like mushrooms in our backyards, edible ones, not other ones. And we tend to be from all walks of life. Somebody made a comment in a lunch conversation that alienated one of the people who was at the table. He said, my parents voted for Trump. And everybody kind of looked at him like, what? But what we forgot was that just because we all may share a similar value set, or we may all work in the same place, we aren't all the same person. So if we can think about asking, if we can think about opening a space for dialogue, if we can think about how we challenge our own belief sets and allow for others' beliefs, we actually create a dialogue. We create a space where people can understand and maybe be more accepting of things that scare them. Fear was mentioned earlier. We can turn these things into something that is far greater, which is a possibility for change. We can be a mirror. We can be a mirror for the kind of behavior, the kinds of things, the kinds of thinking we want to see if we reflect an openness that allows people to be entirely themselves. And then with a little bit of compassion and a little bit of curiosity, we can say, well, here's my perspective. It's one of the things I love about things like Black Panther. I love the notion of fiction as a way to free us from the constraints of what we think is possible to get to what is possible. Right? It gives us this ability to dream of something new and paint a different picture for the folks around us. So because I want to give you guys time to talk amongst yourselves at your tables, I'm going to ask you to think about how you might show rather than tell to create change. How do we shift the conversation from statistics and the deficits of inequality to the power and potential of equality? How do you show a vision? How do you become a mirror? Because actions speak the loudest. So I want you to think about how you make a commitment today, because that's what an act is. An act is a commitment today to create the change you want to see. How do you shift your own behaviors? How do you think differently? How do you provoke conversation? How do you invite people in? So there's 3 questions on your tables. They're on pieces of paper that are printed. Some folks are going to come around the room and chat with you as well, but think about where equality is evident in your organization that you might amplify it further. You might think about taking the Wakanda approach and painting a possible future that reflects what's already good in your organization? How do you create some safe spaces for people to express their beliefs? And what are you going to do to disrupt those patterns of behavior in your organization? Thank you all for joining in the conversation. Thanks to those of you who stood up and shared your commitment. It's not easy to make a commitment publicly in a room full of people that, one, you don't know, and two, something that probably takes some thought, especially if this isn't something that you live every day, like a lot of the women in the room. I would love to ask that you all think about what your act is and post it somewhere publicly, make a commitment to drive the conversation forward. And just as a quick closing comment, the last panel touched on the notion that the next generations are not going to be having this conversation. I would challenge us to recognize that, one, we are all talking very, very much about gender diversity today, but there are so many different forms of inequity that exist in the institutions that we have across the world. So with any luck, we're going to tackle one, and there's going to be another one right behind it. So as you think about the commitment that you're making, the way that you act, and what your belief systems say about you, about your behavior, and the mirror that you become for those around you, it's not just about gender. It's about so many different intersectionalities, as you saw in the Inclusion Starts With I video, that I think we are all beholden to think about how we change the world by changing ourselves a little bit every day and by making conscious commitments to move the conversation forward and create belief structures and then organizational structures around the world we want to see. So think about what your Wakanda is. Think about what that picture is that you can paint for other people to see what it looks like for equality to be normal, for it to be the thing that we all just do, and then take a baby step every day to get there. Thank you guys so much.